Josh's House of Nerd podcast.
Greetings, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to the podcast. Grab a cold evergreen goblet of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. Now for tonight's sponsor, Josh's House of Nerd is brought to you by Vendretti's Antiques. Are you looking for a gift that is for that special person in your life? Then Vendretti's Antiques is the place for you. From a 1919 World Series ring that predicts the outcome of sporting events, or a pocket watch that stops time and allows you to plunder the world, we have this and more. The only price is the price of your soul and the souls of others. Vendretti's Antiques. What we have is to die for. Find us at the corners of Friday and 13th Streets. Not a sponsor.
Yeah, Friday the 13th, the series.
Good job. Okay, so that was the little bit of a clue. I kind of threw the clue in at the end. If I'd done the Friday the 13th Streets thing, would you have known?
I still would have gotten it. I watched this
really
quite a bit.
Nope. Wouldn't have even.
You wouldn't have got it, Crit?
Of course not. I've never watched the Friday the 13th the series.
Let's just say you don't pay in money.
You have seen it. That's awesome. Yeah. I used to watch it, and then right after that would be War of the Worlds, the series. So,
yeah.
And so bad at the same time.
This is one of those things I would watch when I stayed home sick from school.
Okay, I get it now. All right. Today on the podcast, Crit and John and I will be discussing the movie that John and I picked from Crit's 3 choices last week, which is the American horror film called Midsomer by director Ari Aster, whose last movie, Hereditary, was very critically acclaimed. Midsomer stars Florence Pugh as Danny, Will Poulter as Mark, and as my stepfather calls him, Eyebrows, and Jack Rayner as Christian. So let's talk about this movie. Will Poulter, by the way. Every time I see him, that's all I can see now because my stepdad calls him Eyebrows. He's got some.
I have to say, I called it with regards to Crit's picks. I said it was either going to be Hereditary or Midsomer, just because of Ari Aster's unique take on horror. Not even unique take on horror, but on his take on horror after last year when we watched Hereditary and the discussion we had after that. I'd assumed it would either be that or Midsomer.
I was pretty sure it was going to be Hereditary.
Good call. Well, I mean, it's something that I realized while watching this is that horror genre has a genre can get away with camera tricks that would be pretentious in almost any other genre. I mean, the amount of drone shots that they were just like, let's just turn it all upside down. And it's like, in other things, like they can literally just couch it under atmospheric, all the shots where, they got the background moving or the foreground, kind of moving because everybody's on drugs. It's like, they just get to.
It's a horror film.
But I don't see that, a lot of horror.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. There's a lot of horror films that basically do tripod and then tracking, following shots and stuff like that. Maybe some handheld, but like they just got to have a whole lot of fun. It looked like on the actual,
Well, it's like they took that
really messing with everything.
It's like they took that blank check of we're a horror film, so we can be wacky with our shots, and decided to be like, screw it, we are going to be pretentious in some of these shots.
But it was so much fun because
it was so much fun.
Yeah,
when they're tripping on the hillside.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Like the camera work on that, and then just the whole idea of like, is this what tripping is like? I doubt it's exactly what it's like because I've never gone on a trip in my life. But it gave you a good sense of things kind of shifting from the original flavor of the film, the beginning, into the second act type deal.
How neat was that too when they were tripping and it like showed the trees moving and all of the interactions going on with them. I thought that was really neat. Some of those visuals.
You can tell that none of us have ever taken LSD, apparently.
Yeah, no, it's like
No comment.
no.
Okay, you can tell that I haven't taken LSD. I'm the only one that I guess no. I guess you guys could have taken a trip.
No.
So how elaborate was that murder-suicide at the beginning?
That was that
you knew something was different about this film because of it.
Yeah,
Right.
That
Let's
sure
say.
set the tone really, really, really quick. I have a funny thing that kind of happened. I was trying to, when I was watching this movie, and I guess I had it a little too loud because that when she was crying from her family dying, my wife's like, "Who's crying?" She could hear it, and she thought my daughter was crying because this lady was so hysterical, and my daughter just like almost to be funny sometimes just gets like hysterical, crazy, like just laughing or crying, and she couldn't tell the difference. And so she's like, "Rora, where are you?" It's just because the lady is crying and crying and crying so much. I mean, that just set the tone for this entire movie right from then and there, man. That was pretty horrific.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but it kind of felt like the script was kind of worn on the sleeve of the film, in the sense that it seems like it's either foreshadowed or obvious what's going to happen next. Like, oh, that guy's dead, or he's the talent scout. He's the one bringing them to this. I mean, it was obvious, but somehow they made that entertaining. Like usually in a film, if it's obvious like that, I'd be like, couldn't they have hidden that a little better? But in this one, I was just like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. I mean,
I think it's because the film is you can tell it's a quality film, and I like a gut feeling that it's a quality film. And so if they're doing something obvious, where I got a sense of anticipation, it was like, okay, this is obvious, but what's going to come next now? If they're so willing to show us this obvious portion, or show us this portion as an obvious setup, like what's going to come next? Like my anticipation started to build because I knew it was a quality film.
right.
Before I watched it, because again, who it was directed by, and then just the gut feeling of this film is solid. This is quality filmmaking. My thought again was, if they're going to be that obvious, they're going to do something interesting next, and so my anticipation built, and I think that's what overcame the whole. Obviously this guy's a talent scout. He's in charge of bringing people back. But we don't know what's going to happen yet. Like, why is he bringing people back?
That was pretty apparent what he was doing.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that even though there were many things in this movie that were blatantly visible, I think if you went back again and looked at it, there's lots hidden though too.
Well, this is the second time I've seen it, so like there were lots of things that I was like, oh,
yeah.
When she first started tripping on the hill and runs into the bathroom, the reflection in the mirror is of her sister with the pipe in her mouth from the murder suicide. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't really catch that last time. I just saw something back there, but I never got a chance to like kind of pause it and really look at it and say, okay, oh, that's what it is.
Well, so I went back and read some of it, like the kind of the overall like transcript on a few websites about things, and I was reading just from that. So many things that I missed going on. I caught some of them, but there were still quite a few. I'm just like, oh, I didn't realize that, or
So before we go on too much further, would you have gone if you'd gotten the invitation? If you gotten this invitation from this guy that you had become friends with to come to his commune's ancestral party, would you have gone?
Before watching this movie, if either of you had invited me out to some place in Idaho, I'd been like, yeah, sure, you guys are my friends, I trust you. After watching this movie, I'd be like, well,
we get you high first.
You're gonna have to have some really great drugs.
When I hear the word commune, that freaks me out, man. That would just freak me out right then and there.
It just means everybody smells like body odor, and
we've watched too many horror films.
That's true.
Yeah, that's too many horror films.
I know this is because of the horror movie.
Because it's too easy to fear the other, and that's what they're going off of. It's like the unknown and the unfamiliar. But I tell you what, though, that's probably the most fearful I'd be of white people. I mean, like I've not usually, but those white people are pretty scary.
They're scary in such a nice way, like such a creepy, like nice way. And you're like, okay, why are you being so nice? Stop it. You're freaking me out.
Well, I mean, the way they were just kind of like, yeah, they were manipulative, obviously. But they also weren't like, I mean, there were times where they blatantly lied, when they were setting up the alibi for the London couple that disappeared.
So
it's not like
left in quotations.
Yeah, so it wasn't like they were truthful the whole time, but that was kind of the vibe, was that they, like the death of the elderly, the suicides there at the beginning, when they got there and saw that, it's like they were very like transparent about what was, maybe not what was happening, and maybe Josh knew what was going on, since he seemed to know what it was that was going to happen. I don't know. It was interesting because they set up at the beginning that people wouldn't necessarily tell you the whole thing, but they also wouldn't necessarily lie to you until they started doing alibis. Then they started lying blatantly, and I was like, that was interesting.
It made me wonder too if like somebody asked straight out if they would have told them.
Yeah,
because they had that sense of being honest up until the point of the alibis.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with the start of that scene with the older people and stuff like that. That led to the London people freak out. I kind of pinpointed what was happening already.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier about like the film itself just says this is what's going to happen. What's going to happen, but I think, like John said, it just built an anticipation in you.
Yeah, and that was okay that I knew. I didn't realize how graphic it was going to be when they did kill themselves, though. That was pretty. Right. That was pretty hardcore.
Yeah, that's the edge of my body horror limit.
Ooh,
that was like the.
I don't know. If
that was the.
More.
But I never want to see it again type deal.
Mm-hmm. That perspective shot down on the old woman looking up while she's standing on the cliff. How cool was that shot?
That was amazing. It really was. With all the
like
people
the parallax.
Off the distance.
Yeah, the parallax between what she's standing on and the ground way below her, and just the pose and everything. And I was just like, whoa. I remember that being cool, but I didn't remember that shot. And I was like, that was a cool shot.
That's one thing about this movie is he's really good with those visuals. This movie is beautifully shot. And this is just a pure example of that.
The shots, I think they did a good job of framing the shots in that the guy, you could tell, didn't want to go through with it, but it only looked like he didn't want to go through with it when the camera was from the tourists' point of view, when it was kind of over in their court and they were looking at the guy. Those are the only times where it gives the impression that he wasn't entirely on with this whole idea of, I'm going to jump off the cliff and kill myself now because I'm 72.
The other thing I was thinking was, like, if you're going to screw up a ritual, don't screw up that one, like falling feet first. Like, why?
Yeah, you should do that one right. You should
just get that one right.
Do some practice falls.
Okay. That's a trick you can only do once.
But yeah, it was brutal. That's kind of the edge of my body horror.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't think that scene will stick with me for a long time. On the rewatch, I skipped it. So this was my second time watching it as well. I skipped it.
I got to be honest. It got not only was that scene pretty horrific with them coming off the cliff, but what even just put the nail in it, is the London couple kind of the freak out. And just ramping up that, like, how horrifying this is.
And they did such a good job with the freak out. The actors, holy cow. Like, it felt like a legitimate, you were there, this is how people would react type freak out.
Normal people for sure.
But
people for sure. But yeah, when you're dealing with Danny and you look at Danny's reaction compared to the London couple, the anthropologists, I don't understand. Like, I wonder if they have been primed in some hand, like the Josh and what's his name? Christian. Yeah. So I wonder if Josh and Christian are kind of primed for dealing with something like this because they're anthropologists and they've made their entire lives about cultures that, have done crazy things. But Danny's reaction is one of surprise, yet
It almost like it calmed her,
yeah.
and then it didn't. Like afterwards, obviously she freaked out again. But during it, she totally went either. I can't tell if it was supposed to be catatonic or if it was supposed to be like soothing in some way, or like I don't know. I didn't know what to think about her reaction. I don't think it was wrong or bad or anything. I just didn't have a strong feeling one way or the other about her reaction to it. She definitely shut down, but I don't know if she shut down due to like trying to ignore what was happening, although she's looking at it, or if I think maybe more the film's trying to say she shut down in a sense of kind of acceptance. Like it was a step towards healing for her. Because like
I almost shut
kind
down.
of the yeah, because that's kind of the I mean, I'm sure we'll get to talking about like the overarching themes of the movie and stuff like that, but that felt like that was one of the things was her trying to heal past her trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a really screwed up way of healing past your trauma, but that's that's a movie.
Yeah. I thought the reaction of the men was the one that was quite shocking, like the Christian, the boyfriend. Christian,
Yeah,
Christian was like something was wrong with him the whole time. Like there was, like he just had no,
right?
Super detached.
Yeah.
Well, what goes into the decision to stay after something like that too?
Yeah,
well, okay.
thank you.
So anthropology. I mean, I don't know. We need to talk to an anthropologist because there's a. Okay, so put yourself in this mindset. You go to a tribe in the Amazon that no one's, really had contact with, right? And you see them do something really screwed up from modern societal standpoints. What do? Do you try to teach them that's not a good idea? Do you just go, well, that's kind of their customs. Do I have a right to say something? And it feels like anthropology would say, there is no right or wrong. It's all culturally contextual because no one would, you wouldn't invite someone into your house and then they would go, oh, look, you're doing this thing. That's a terrible thing to do. You shouldn't do that. You're exposing your kids to this. That's terrible and stuff like that. And you'd be like, well, who are you to say stuff like that? So like, I feel like anthropology is a disconnected way in that it's studying how people are and not trying to change how people will be.
Not putting your morals on them.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess mine's more from a fear point of view. My biggest fear at that point was if they're doing something like this, what else are they or can they do?
How far
that would be my thing. It's just
sure.
Like, if they've okayed this, what else is on the board, so to speak?
Like string you up and pull your lungs through your back?
Yeah. Yeah, the blood eagle. Yeah.
That was nuts.
That was brutal.
I don't know that reference, but that's okay.
So the blood eagle is a Norse torture method. A Norse method of torture.
Okay.
I didn't know it was called.
And that's the individual in the barn that had his lungs pulled out. That's called a blood eagle.
Oh, okay.
And it's a ritual.
Oh, that was gross.
Yeah. It was gross. I found that more horrific than the burning at the end.
Yeah, the burning at the end. I've seen Burning Man. Or not Burning Man, Wicker Man.
Wicker Man.
Wicker Man. I'd seen Wicker Man. Both Wicker Man. Okay. The 1972 Wicker Man was by far better.
Oh, come on.
Better than Nicolas Cage. Okay, but the
Nicolas Cage version is better in a different way.
Okay.
But that brings something else. That brings up something else. I think the original Wicker Man shares something with Midsomer, and that's the unsettling way they're portraying the commune.
Yeah.
Something's not quite right, but they do such a good job of hiding it.
Well, it's like a community in an uncanny valley.
Yeah, exactly. And they're because they camouflage what's not right with what's just weird.
Right.
And what would normally be weird to anyone else. You're like, okay, yeah, this is weird. Is that what's causing my feeling of, oh no, this is not quite right? Not the fact I'm watching a horror film,
Right.
But no, I think Midsomer and Wicker Man share some, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some inspiration shared from Wicker Man to Midsomer with Ari Aster. Personally.
So, yeah, for sure. And I think one of the interesting things for me got me thinking about was at the suicides at the cliff was her kind of the matriarch's explanation of their view of death, kind of a rebirth life cycle type thing, and almost karmatic in that way. Yeah, it was like, is that like the ability to choose to go out, in your own terms, as opposed to being, slowly killed in a, I guess as Christian put it, in a nursing home and stuff like that, and kind of dehumanized that way. What do you guys feel about that? Like, as far as like, I know it's not necessarily a great perspective on things. It's like you want to keep living for as long as you live, but as far as a theme that it builds up on death and what a good life is and stuff like that.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Ooh.
That's why I like it.
You could, this goes back to, I remember the days of like Kevorkian and stuff like that, and
euthanasia and
stuff, which it was based upon some of these similar kind of principles, of people not suffering, as they get older, or in his case, people who are really sick and stuff like that. I don't know. It's hard, me as a person, me personally, I'm not, I don't know if I totally don't agree with it, but if it's, it's a perspective that's me personally, I probably wouldn't ever do something like that. But at the same time, I have a hard time telling people, no, you can't do that,
Because like in some ways, Christian's end is essentially what happens to someone who doesn't get to choose when they're in the nursing home. Right. Like he doesn't have a choice anymore. His choice was taken away from him, and he isn't capable anymore of fulfilling his own will. Mm-hmm. He may want to end his situation, but he can't.
Mm-hmm.
So like to me, that's kind of similar to the idea that they're working against, at least at the cliff side, is being able to make the choice. I mean, we can have a long conversation about whether or not they actually had a choice and what brainwashing and what choice means, in the terms of that. If they've lived in that cult their entire life, they will say that it's their choice to do it. And then it's kind of a really hard conversation about whether it actually is or not.
If they feel the societal, pressures of, well, if you don't go through it, then you're not part of the society type thing.
A society that they've been a part of probably all their life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's and you have I have a hard time, I have a hard time. It's such a hard topic because, I know what I feel personally, but at the same time, it's really hard when you see people like when my grandmother was in a nursing home and she was, she wasn't suffering, but she definitely wasn't, her quality of life was not great either,
Mm-hmm.
And, the perspective I've always had was, well, more of a religious perspective of, well, maybe there's still something I can learn from. There's something here to learn still, maybe in this form, and that I don't know that I need to learn still. That God still wants me to learn, and that's always perspective I've taken it from. But at the same time, you can see the other side of the argument of, wow, you don't want
really
people
want
to
to
suffer
learn
either.
The extent of suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, is it truly a lesson to take with you to know exactly how much pain you can possibly bear before you go crazy, or even after?
And that's the hard part, I mean, yeah, there's the battle right there. No, I don't believe in killing people.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's so hard to watch them suffer like that too.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm saying up to the cliff.
Right.
Because once they started taking the lives of other people, that's a different conversation. Because at that point in time, I don't know, they're fulfilling some type of contract. They have to have like 9 sacrifices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then, because at that point, I mean, I guess they're doing all their ceremonies and stuff, but really right there at that point, it's between them and whatever they want to do when they're sitting on that cliff. Do they have to jump? Well, they don't have to, but they still, they choose to.
But the question is, are you sure? Because I mean, they've got that whole thing set up, to they didn't quite die. That's okay. We've got a huge mallet that will just take to their head. We're golden. So I personally wonder if.
And how gross was that everybody was like clapping and like joyful.
Well, and they were, and before that they were mimicking him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
didn't realize that's what they were doing.
That happens a couple of times when they burn the guys at the end.
Yeah, they're mimicking their cries.
They did set me up with that one because I thought for sure that the stuff that they gave their own members would be like some type of anesthetic or something like that. But no, turns out it wasn't.
Yeah, I thought he said to take the pain away or to not feel anything when he handed
not
that stuff.
Fear. Yeah. And it's like, I don't think that happened.
No, that guy screamed when he was on fire.
Almost nothing you can give somebody will stop them from screaming if they're on fire. So that's a possibility too.
Yeah, I read an article about, this is one of that article I was telling you about that I kind of missed stuff, and they were saying that part of their tradition of the kind of the shaking and stuff at the burning part at the end, when they're burning their temple or whatever, is kind of them shaking off like their sins. They're shaking off all of the detritus of this life type thing.
Gotcha.
in this ceremony.
That makes sense because that's what they're explaining to Danny is that the whole thing is to purge.
Yes, and that's exactly what they're doing. Is he used that word too in this article, purging themselves of all of this old stuff.
So if we talk about that final choice though,
okay,
the local villager or Christian, the person or a stranger, like why did Danny choose Christian over the local villager? I don't think it's just because she was pissed he was banging another chick. Personally,
I've got a theory on that, but
no, go ahead. I would love to hear it because I don't have any theories. I don't.
Oh, okay, Josh, do you have anything?
No, I mean, the only theory I have on that, because he leaves it so wide open, like he does in all of his movies, is the interpretation I got was she'd gotten to the point where all of her friends were already gone and she was feeling accepted within this community. And you could see that she had been with like making bread, making meat pies, things like that. And maybe this was to wash the slate clean, that like she could start brand new. She could go forth without any kind of baggage, which maybe she put that on Mark because he felt that she was kind of baggage, but was afraid to get out of the relationship. And I think she in some ways did too. And they weren't getting along at the very end. And there was some interfering, I felt like, going on from their friend, and I can't remember his name, but it felt like he was kind of interfering with that relationship a little bit. But I think it just came to the point where she didn't feel anything for him anymore. He didn't feel anything for her anymore. Well, a little bit. You could tell he did a little bit because he was still questioning himself at the end. Anyways, that's what I think. And that was her opportunity to clean the slate, move forward with her new family.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much on the text, I think. I saw, when I originally saw this movie, it sat with me a little while and I was looking up some stuff on it. And that's why I wanted to watch it again. So I was glad when you guys chose it, although the other two would have been great choices too for different reasons. One of the theories that I liked a lot that really resonated with me, and I saw it this time more clearly because I was watching for it, is that this is a breakup movie. And it's also a Hansel and Gretel or Goldilocks and the Three Bears story, in that you're not, how we're disconnected from those stories. We don't see the human drama in it because they're just children's stories, or they're just, kind of those types of things. Those aren't real people. They're just characters in a story. So if you kind of step back from the movie and instead of thinking of Christian as a person, think of him as a character. Right. And think of every interaction that happens in the movie as a metaphor for what's happening in an actual real world relationship. um, and in some, it's kind of like the act, every act that they have are metaphors for something that's happening in the real world. Hooking up with another girl, her getting comfort from her friends, learning how to reincorporate herself back into the community through working with the people in the kitchens, and stuff like that. And the fabulous stuff, the kind of the burning and the murders and the suicides and everything else like that, they aren't real, in the sense that they're pieces of things that are happening around the relationship between those two people. And I thought that was, I don't think I have the full grasp on every like scene and what it might mean in a real in the real relationship that this is telling the story of, through kind of a fable type way, but like a modern fable, I guess, is what I was kind of looking at it as. And I found that to be like a really interesting way to watch this movie. I mean, watch it as a horror film, watch it as an interesting thing for cinematography and storytelling. But I think also as kind of the modern breakup fable. Then it stops becoming horrific in a sense, and the murders aren't murders. They're people, being pushed away by the relationship itself, and her finding her freedom again, basically losing his friends as her only connection to the rest of reality or the rest of life. She's pretty much defined herself by her relationship with him. He's not really in it, but he's staying there because of the trauma that they've shared, or, he would feel bad, or he doesn't want to be alone. He doesn't want to be alone, stuff like that. And so she's getting to the point where she can live without him, and that she's found a community that accepts her. Now, in what's on the screen, it's horrific and it's terrible and it's cultish and it's weird and and all stuff like that. But as a fable, it's kind of interesting. It's like empowering or something. So I thought that's kind of, like I said, that theory is the one that probably most resonated with me, and especially on the second watch, was trying to pick each incident that happens in the movie and trying to map it back onto a relationship and what might have happened in that relationship to cause, to be pushed into the fable in this form. It's like the other couple from London. They're a healthy couple. They are, engaged and in love and supportive of each other and stuff like that, and everything else like that. And they get destroyed in the end, and like, where does her point of view on their relationship,
Unhappy couples go.
Exactly.
No, I think that's as good a theory as any. I didn't think about looking at it that way. I think if I ever watch this again, because I think with Ari Aster's films, it's a 1 to 2 times watch, and then we'll never leave you for the rest of your life.
Right.
If I ever choose to watch this film again for whatever reason, I think I might look at it through that lens and see where that gets me.
Well, I'm excited from you guys, because I'm never watching this again.
Well, you're the guys that love horror movies. I'm not a big horror movie person, and so like when you guys are like, we're doing horror genre, I'm like, all right, that's what you want.
No, and we do. This one, this one is just it's. I was telling Juliana about it, that that this is on the edge of, like, if you look at this movie, a lot of this movie isn't horror. It's more of a kind of a whodunit thriller type, like you're wondering what's going to happen, what's going on. It's not like anything like, no, there's no jump scares. It's just tension. It's Ari Aster is famous. It seems like he's famous for like really pulling out all the stops on his movies, like in the last 15 minutes, maybe 20.
It's like the fantastical just gets more and more and more as the movie goes on, till it hits the crescendo in the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Because that's what Hereditary did. I mean,
yeah,
Hereditary got real crazy in the last 15. So
Hereditary had a bunch of jump scares.
Hereditary did, and that's why I didn't say Hereditary didn't have the jump scares, but Midsomer
literally
didn't.
Literally lose your head watching that film.
Literally.
Okay.
If you haven't seen Hereditary, go see Hereditary. We're not spoiling Hereditary here.
If you have a strong
Spoiling
constitution.
Midsommar.
I mean, if you get through Midsommar, you can get through Hereditary.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
I think out of the two, Midsommar is definitely the harder one to sit through for me.
That's interesting. Why?
I think a lot of it just has to do with that body horror. This was closer to the worst body horror. The other ones I could probably I don't know.
Signpost and the other stuff that's happening in Hereditary wasn't as horrible. Maybe because it was in the dark.
Maybe because it was in the dark. Not that it wasn't horrible. It's just it was a lot harder to watch the cliff scene in Midsommar than it was to watch anything else in Hereditary.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, there's something about like a horror film set in the daytime.
That's true.
That's just
it feels like it's invading.
Idea.
Yeah, invading your because this whole thing was set basically in the day.
Yeah.
Just like Wicker Man. But it definitely invades your sense of security because like it's daytime. That's when you watch horror films not to get scared. Yeah. You watch Midsommar in the middle of the day and it's going to make it worse.
This nothing like freaked me out, and that's why I say it's more like it's not like it is a horror movie. It definitely is at the very end. But a majority of the movie is just more of like it's suspenseful, and that's why I say that it's more suspenseful, more tension, and I probably going to walk that back a little bit because a lot of the best horror movies that are out there is just suspense and tense, being tense.
Yeah,
for some reason I just felt a little different about this one.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough.
That it was just tense, and I didn't feel like it was like scary in the sense. I'm pretty jaded when it comes to that anyway, but it was just like I was super tense, almost like I had all my muscles like clenched the whole time.
It's kind of an existential scariness because if you're thinking about anything that's happening from the point of view of the villagers, like what they're thinking about, they think this is right, possibly even righteous. Right. So if you're thinking
would go as far as it saying that,
if you're thinking about it from their perspective, that's the horror. Like, because if you're not turning that perspective back on yourself and going, well, what do I do that an outsider would look at and go, wait, what? Why are you doing it that way? Like, like that's horrible. And obviously it kind of has to be blown out of proportion to our own lives. Otherwise it isn't horrible. Like it has to involve things like death and body mutilation and stuff like that, because otherwise we're just like, oh, that's weird. They drink mushrooms. It's just like,
right.
You're just like, that's not really horrible. It's just different and weird, but they've got to ramp it up so that you can take a look at it and go, okay, again, it's the free will conversation, especially when you're standing on the cliff. You're about to do something that your entire community tells you is right and righteous. Do you do it? Can you look at that objectively? Is it even possible to look at it objectively? And if it's not, then there's no chance for you to be able to do it in your own life. You can't look at your decisions objectively and go, well, no, actually, this is probably a pretty good thing, that type of thing. I think that's where the horror comes from. This is more of a, almost, it starts getting close to like cosmic horror type things where, they're worshiping something and a process that, may or may not be there. And it's, and they're driving, they have what they think are good reasons for the things that they do, but they're still causing major trauma and death in, other people's lives because of it.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's funny that when you said that, like, what would people think if they came into my house?
Yeah.
And so, it popped into my head. My mom was here the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like,
why are you watching Midsommar?
Well, she will actually be like, if she knew what I just
what you just watched.
Yeah.
I may not live with you, but I'm still your mother.
Actually, that sounds just like my mom, actually. And she was at my house and she was helping me make dinner for the kids. And she found out and was horrified that I don't put butter on my pancakes anymore.
And that's equivalent to Midsommar.
I was about to say that's pretty horrifying.
I don't know why that popped into my head. Like, you should have seen my mom's face when I told her. I'm like, yeah, we don't do butter very much on the like waffles or pancakes, and we're what? That's where all the flavor is.
we had the same thing with peanut butter.
Really?
My wife doesn't like peanut butter on like pancakes or waffles, and that's all we did at my folks' house. So when my folks came over and we really didn't put peanut butter on anything, they had the same exact kind of reaction. Like, what? We didn't even get it out when we served them waffles. We just had butter and we had strawberries with with the whipped cream and stuff, but no peanut butter. And they're wondering.
We were the same way. We didn't even have the butter tray, on the table because it was sitting there next to the cooking.
This is the suburban Midsomer.
Yeah. Okay.
You said that was the first thing that popped into my head is my mom being horrified that we don't put butter on our pancakes anymore. But anyway,
wow.
Sorry. And I thought it'd be funny to break the tension a little bit because this is like some hard topics we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, to preempt it, I would never ever watch Midsomer with anyone's mom.
Ooh, dude, are you giving away things here?
No, I mean, I think it should be pretty obvious, this whole film. I would never watch my mom to preempt my rating just a little bit. Since we're already talking about moms, I figured I'd bring it up. I would never watch this with my mother. I would never let my mother know I watched this. I would never let her know what it was about. If she ever asked, I would say I had no idea what it was.
So when either of your mothers listen to this, I'm sorry. I did this to them. You can blame it on me.
We've been corrupted.
Yeah, I mean,
let's just say there's many scenes.
Before, but
there's been many scenes that got fast forwarded. Let's just say in this.
My mother's already told me she's skipping horror month. So
gotcha. That makes sense.
I'm golden. I could say anything here.
I don't just change the subject just a little bit, but I thought that the buildings and the iconography and everything that they had going on was really cool looking.
I agree.
I don't know if those were like super traditional, like Swedish. I know nothing about Swedish culture really. And I didn't really look it up. I probably should have, but like the room, the building where they had all of the books that they were filling out and stuff like that, and one of the scenes I'm sure you fast forwarded through took place in, that was just a really cool look, like from the outside and like the downward slope to the entrance, and yet it's all vertical gables and stuff like that. I was like, that's just a really cool.
I thought the bedroom
being just wood
that they slept in was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
I agree with that. Like even just the temple at the end, that was beautiful. All of the. Where they'd walk by the stone to be like, hey, what's that root mean? And stuff like that. I thought that was pretty.
And the circle of boards in the shape of a sun that they walked through at the very beginning of the movie. Like, that was just cool looking. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what they did for the set, but they worked. That was just some cool, I don't know if it was inventive or not. It might not have been, but if it was, kudos. That was really cool.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. I was going to bring up something that I missed, and it's kind of gross. I don't know if I should bring it up in the podcast. Well, maybe we are. Maybe people have already left by the time we were talking about this kind of stuff.
We've been pretty vague about everything. I mean,
a little bit.
Except for the absolute horror metal that it was with the lungs through the back.
That was gross. I was horrified when I read, because I did miss this part, about the things that he was drinking. Did you guys notice that when he got a meat pie with a pube?
Yeah, because that was in the mural that they scrolled past at the beginning. That was on the cloth that was hanging outside.
That was pretty graphic.
They show you exactly the steps, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, now we know what's going on. I know where that's coming from.
But the thing is, I was saying that while they were while they were panning past it, I was like, what, really?
Oh.
It's like, it was obviously a love potion. That's kind of, they said it looked very straightforward as far as that. I was like, they're not showing this to not use it later.
Yeah, they wouldn't be wasting the film.
And then when he's sitting in there and she's like, yes, you're an astrological match. And he's like, yeah, I found this hair in the thing. And she says, yeah, sounds about right. And I just start laughing.
That was like, yeah,
that's standard. That happens often.
That makes sense.
Here's a floss pick.
Oh my god. Yeah, that was gross. Well, and also you notice that his drink at the table during that
Was
is
slightly
darker.
pink?
Yeah, it's darker than the rest of them.
Yeah.
That's
So
the part I missed.
She did more than that.
And I was pretty grossed out when I
Yeah,
realized that.
That's straight up gross.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, like I guess I didn't. I'm glad I probably would have been more horrified if I'd keyed into that, like when I was watching it. But because I was horrified enough about the pube hair in his meat pie. But
yeah, I mean, in some sense, it's like attempted date rape. Because if it worked, if the magic works, then he has no choice in the matter. Again, clashing against the whole free will thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's god. So some of the so that's the kind of stuff. It's like, oh, jeez.
The only kind of disappointing thing was like they were so inventive about the other things, like Mark eyebrows, I guess. Kind of the way he died. They alluded to it in the earlier thing when they were asking him, "Hey, what are the kids doing?" He's like, "Well, they're playing the Skinned Man or something like that." I think it was something like that. But like with the other anthropologist, Josh, it's just his legs sticking out of the ground, and I was like, okay. I mean, like, they were so sort of inventive with all the other ones. I was like, oh, okay, that's just where he ended up then.
What, you wanted to see him skinned? Is that what you're saying?
No. Okay. I'm saying that he gets killed by someone wearing the skin of Mark. Right? Mm-hmm. So there's something inventive there. They never really show what happened to the girl that was in the couple, the London couple. But the guy, he gets the blood eagle or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. That, like I said, I was just like, oh, it's just a leg in the ground. It just didn't strike as hard as the other ones.
Yeah. That one was more of
what did you guys think about him?
Just to show you it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about him being stuffed in the bear at the very end?
That one again just reminded me of Wicker Man.
Right, and it just reminds me of when they were like, "Is that a bear?" Yeah, that's just a bear, and they just walk past it. And for the rest of the movie, this was the first time I watched it. The rest of the movie, I'm thinking, okay, where's the bear coming in? Where's the bear coming in? Where's the bear coming in?
It reminds me of a story that my dad would tell around the campfire of when he worked on a trapping line, and long story short, he gets caught out in the woods. It's kind of, it's middle of winter, and he kills an elk and he cuts it open and climbs inside like Tauntaun style.
Right.
And he wakes up to two wolves like attacking this elk, and he grabs their tails and steers it back into camp. And as a kid, this story was amazing.
Right.
As an adult, the story is terrifying. even made more so when I'm reminded of it because this guy is being stuffed inside of a dead bear.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Dad's story is terrifying. I'm going to tell it to my kid.
Well, that's how we pass on. It really, is anything in tradition just passed on trauma? I think it is.
Yeah. It sticks with you for some reason.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That's
like the butter on the pancakes will stick with my mom and my kids forever.
Yeah,
the question is whether or not your kids will see that as trauma later in life.
Yeah.
They absolutely won't. They thought it was hilarious. Anyway.
Okay.
All right. Ratings?
Well, I gave you mine already.
Yes,
I would
you
never
did. You
ever
kind of jumped the gun.
I had to jump the gun because we were talking about moms, and it just felt right because
yeah.
But no, I would never ever watch it with my mom.
I'm gonna give it 5 out of 10 bloody bear suits.
All right.
And stuff. And I gave it a middle of the road number just because once again, everything about the movie, like the cinematography, the way that it's directed, the acting, I thought it was all superb.
I think he did a similar take with
I did.
Patience of a Furious Man.
I went a little lower on that one just because.
Yeah.
Because actually, this one actually kept my attention up until and it was only disturbed me the the very end scenes, you know what I'm talking about. Anybody who's seen it knows what I'm talking about. That's where it really caught me. And in actuality, it was kind of like Hereditary in that sense of Hereditary was a hard watch the whole movie.
Mm.
But it only got but it was absolutely, you could absolutely like understand like that lady's like, you know, the pain she was going through and stuff like that. And it sucked you in, it kept you going, it kept you interested, you know, and stuff. And only at the very end where it was like, what the hell? But this one, like, also kind of like that way, like up until the very end, like I was just kind of like, oh, this isn't so bad at all. You know, and I was kind of taking in the scenery. I was taking in like, you know, kind of the little weird stuff they were hinting at. And that's why, you know, I can't trash this movie at all. It is very well put together. It's just not my kind of movie. I mean, I love horror. This is just not my style of horror that I like as much.
Gotcha.
And, you know, and that's why I did that. I couldn't give it a lower number than that. So I went kind of a neutral number.
So it sounds like I'm getting closer and closer to finding a movie you don't like.
You're getting closer. You're getting closer because I don't.
I mean, unintentionally, I give you 3 movies. I didn't pick them out just because I thought you wouldn't like them.
I know you didn't.
I'm getting closer.
But yes, and I think you knew that you were getting closer because you know my feelings about Hereditary.
Well, I mean, it was of the 3. You know, you guys could have picked any of the other 2, and it wouldn't have been. You know, they would have been very different movies than this one. So
I don't remember what the other 2 were, but
Let the Right One In, which is a vampire movie,
which I know what that's about, and I know I would have loved it. I've never seen it though.
Yeah, and then Devil's Backbone, which is a ghost movie.
And again, I haven't seen that one either. I haven't seen any of the ones that you proposed. So
yeah, so if you'd have picked the other 2, it'd have been cool, and we would have had lots to talk about, but it wouldn't have been related to Hereditary. But this one is the one you guys picked, so ha
ha ha.
So Crit, what's your rating on it?
Yes.
9 out of 13 meat pies.
Ugh, gross.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah, I thought it was especially with the second watch with the whole this is a breakup fable. This movie was easier to watch the second time because of that. Because you're not taking what's on screen literally, like literally someone's dying. You're taking it more as a metaphor of what's happening in this relationship, and you're starting to see like how they're painting a picture. Like you could almost see at the end the picture of what happened around them in the real version of their relationship, and that this story is the metaphor, the fable about their relationship. I thought that was really interesting. So I thought that is a cool, like I'm trying to think of any other like major motion picture movies that do this, you know, that would do something like that. You know, they all seem to be pretty literal, like what's on screen is what actually happened, as opposed to like what on screen is a representation of emotions that happened during a specific thing that happened. And I thought that was a neat way to go about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's intentional or not. That was just a theory I read, and I was like, oh, that's a cool way to watch this movie.
Good way to look at it.
Yeah, that's an excellent way.
If I ever can bring myself to watch this again, I will look at it in that perspective.
It's entertaining. It's definitely a different way of watching it. I felt totally different about the whole movie the second time.
Yeah,
because I think the first movie I was just like, that was trippy and nuts and crazy and oh my god, but it wasn't like I didn't really get real deep into it. But like this time I was just like, oh, you know, when he says when the recruiter is basically talking to Danny and he goes, does he feel like home to you? And she's just looking at him and I'm like, yeah, right? Like if you're in a good relationship with someone, they feel like home. They feel like your base. And that was just like kind of a really cool and again, watching it from a perspective of literally what's happening is not what's happening. It's just the emotion that's happening. That's the friend saying, look, you're in an unhealthy place. You know, you keep doubting your own feelings about this relationship. You should trust your feelings about this relationship. And that, you know, that's usually really good advice.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. actually.
Anyway, I thought that was neat.
I like
And
it a
Mark
lot.
is a straight up creep. He's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I want to give her a bath. I was like, what? Why is that the thing he wants to do?
What a weirdo.
Yeah.
I think everybody was like, "Yay, you died." Sorry.
So, are you ready for my picks?
We are ready
Yeah.
to move on and get to your
Okay.
pick for sure.
So just so everybody knows out there, we're moving on to our next month's category, which is Westerns. So, John, take it away.
Westerns? I thought we were doing independent college films.
Oh, great. Lots of black and white. I'm ready.
Lots of black and white.
Great.
No,
I got to
okay.
start doing different
All right.
research there.
The first one. We sing, we shout, we let it all out. The second one. A shit show of shenanigans and smooth talk. The third one. Is that a smoke wagon in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Ooh.
Yeah,
So
I think I
again,
know what 2
that's-
and 3 are.
We sing, we shout, we let it all out. A shit show of shenanigans and smooth talk. Is that a smoke wagon in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
All right. What are you feeling, Josh?
I'm not
Josh?
feeling anything. Are you feeling anything? Sorry.
If I'm right about number 2, I think I want to do number 2. But
I honestly don't have any feelings, real strong
For
feelings
any of
about
them?
any of them. No.
okay.
I mean, a lot of times I do, but this one I don't.
All right.
I think I
I'm
did a
gonna
good job
trust
then.
in you this week, Crit, on your pick.
Okay.
Man.
So
Okay.
you picked
We're
a shit
do-
show of shenanigans and smooth talks?
That's what we did. Yeah.
Okay, so the first one, we sing, we shout, we let it all out, is the Coen brothers' Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah,
That's weird
fantastic.
because that's going to be difficult to talk about because there's so many different stories in there. But
Well, I think that's what would have made it great to talk about,
okay.
because we could have handled each story. It would have been great.
Right.
The third one was, is that a smoke wagon in your pocket, or are you just happy to ski me? Skin that smoke wagon. It's Tombstone.
yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's such one of my all-time favorite scenes in any film.
I'm your Huckleberry.
I'm your Huckleberry. Well, and then
That's a good
just
movie.
that whole scene. Well, skin that smoke wagon.
Yep.
That's so great. Okay, and a shit show of shenanigans and smooth talk is the Hateful Eight.
I did not get that one right.
Oh, what did you think it was?
I thought it might have been Blazing Saddles.
Oh, it was on my list, but it got beat out by the Hateful Eight.
Okay.
Hateful Eight.
Hateful
So-
Eight. I've seen it twice already, so this will be fun to see.
I've seen it once.
It's a great Tarantino film.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about it. I think there's a lot to unpack and talk about. It just, again, with any Tarantino.
We get to
film,
discuss
there is,
Tarantino. Like,
Yeah,
we're just going to
exactly.
discuss all his films next time.
So
which is fine.
I've kind of started ranking my Tarantino movies, and I think this might be either one or I think this is number 2. I think Django
So-
is my first.
Careful.
one.
Let's not talk about it.
Yeah, we
It'll
can't
be
talk
good.
about it yet.
It'll be good stuff for the next episode, man.
I almost did just Tarantino films.
Yeah, you probably could have. Yeah.
Because I could have done the Hateful Eight, I could have done Django Unchained, and then you could have made an argument for Inglourious Bastards.
Well, I mean, and you're missing the obvious one.
Which one am I missing?
Well, outside of Hateful Eight, I guess, which is like straight up Western setting.
yeah.
Which is oh man, why am I drawing a blank on it now?
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on it too.
His 3-part movie with killers and all that stuff. Why am I drawing a blank?
Like Kill Bill.
Yeah, Kill
I
Bill.
don't-
It's got
Kill
plenty-
Bill.
It's got all sorts of Western stuff in it,
That's true.
and
Could have
theme
been that one.
and everything else like that. Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
seen Kill Bill.
But yeah, so
will
Hateful Eight.
resolve
The
that
Hateful Eight. Samuel Jackson, Kurt Russell. I love Kurt Russell so much. I love his beard. I love his beard in this one.
Yeah,
So I'm excited. It'll be a good week.
He is really
Oh,
good in
that's-
this movie.
that's what I should have forced us to watch.
What's that?
If I could have leveraged the vote somehow.
Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah.
I debated doing like a bait and switch and like, oh,
Yeah.
you guys chose Bone Tomahawk.
right.
Oh no! I'll never rewatch that film.
Yeah,
Ever.
that's definitely a one-time watch for me.
Okay, Well,
All
thank
right,
you.
guys.
I'm
Well,
excited
thanks for
it.
being
It'll
on
be
the
good.
podcast tonight, and I can't wait to watch Hateful Eight and talk about it next week. I liked it the first time, and I know I'll like it even better a second time. And as always, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper from all of us here at Josh's House of Nerd. Good night to y'all.
Thanks for watching. For more nerdy awesomeness, please like and subscribe and check out our other nerdy videos.